Welcome back to the PR Bunker podcast, the place where public relations, strategy, and real-world decision-making intersect. Today's conversation tackles something communications professionals have been pushing for years, but still too often have to justify: a seat at the table. Not the table where messaging gets reviewed after decisions are made, not the table where communications is brought in to explain or defend someone else's strategy. The table where strategy is shaped. Because in today's environment, where reputation drives value, trust fuels growth, and a single misstep can redefine an organization, communications isn't a support function, it's a leadership function. To unpack this, we are joined by Brooks Wallace, founder of the Wallace Group, who brings a sharp, practical perspective on why communications leaders need to be involved early, before risks escalate, before narratives harden, and before opportunities are missed. We'll talk about what happens when comms is sidelined, how credibility is built inside organizations, and what it really takes to move from execution to influence. If you work in PR, marketing, corporate communications, or sit anywhere near the C-suite, this conversation will resonate. And here's the host of the PR Bunker podcast, Don Martelli.
Welcome to the PR Bunker podcast. I am your humble host, Don Martelli, CEO of the PR Bunker. We are a strategic communications and public relations agency working with mission-driven and impact-focused organizations. And oftentimes, those of us that work in communications, we work with folks who are not in communications, so we speak a different language. So from time to time, I will have folks that are in comms that know what I talk about on the podcast. And one of those lovely people is Brooks Wallace. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining us today on the PR Bunker podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So this is pretty easy. It's as a PR person, it's probably the easiest interview you'll ever have, right? It's all about you, your work. And you and I had a couple conversations beforehand, and I love where you're at. You and I were talking about, where does communication sit within an organization? What seat does it own? It's important to an organization. So we're going to explore that in a second. But before we get there, you've done a few things in your life to get to this particular point. So Tell my audience your story. How'd you get into comms? What do you love to do? Let's get into it. So introduce yourself.
Amazing. I will say, Don, I mentioned this to you the other day. It's very strange for a comms person like myself to finally be in front of the camera. We're usually behind the camera. So we'll see how this goes. So my story, 15 years into my career, and I started in Boston, here in Boston, where I am again, at a PR agency. And I spent about 12 years at PR firms on both coasts. So in the Boston market and then in San Francisco. I moved to San Francisco as well. I quickly learned that tech, communications, and PR was my happy place, and luckily stayed in that lane after working for some amazing consumer brands too, like Dunkin' Donuts. This is a funny tidbit to age myself, but I was part of the team at RF Binder Partners that helped launch the Dunkin' Boston Twitter account. So,
nice.
Way back when, I think 2010. Yeah.
Twitter, as we'd say.
Twitter. Yeah.
Twitter, kid.
So Dunkin' Donuts, Staples, Bank of America, got my, started learning on those accounts, and it was fantastic. And then I quickly switched into tech and have stayed in tech PR forever. In San Francisco, I was able to work with companies like Google, Amazon Business, Zenefits was a favorite client for many, many reasons. And then a couple crypto companies too. So I helped lead the team at an agency for Coinbase, you may have heard of, and then Ripple as well. And then after another agency stint, I ended up going in-house at a crypto exchange and wallet called blockchain.com. Fast forward a couple more years, and then I spent 2.5 years at a carbon removal company, so climate tech, based in Canada, called Deep Sky. And so I have this strange experience within crypto, within climate, and then kind of everything in between: software, hardware, et cetera. And so now I'm on my journey as a consultant based
Love
in
that.
Boston. Yeah.
I mean, as communicators, we have the ability to learn just about any industry at any given time, and we flow along the river, if you will. And clearly, your background between dunks and crypto, vastly in two different industries, different language, different stories you're pitching, but comms is the consistency, right? What do you love about comms and PR, and what keeps you in the space?
My goodness. So as you and I have in common, journalism majors at Northeastern. So I have always loved journalism, loved writing.
Hmm.
I tell interns and students and mentees that, if you were the person who loved to manage a class project, always wrote too much in your school essays and whatnot, PR is probably a career path you want to pursue. But I knew I wanted to work in journalism somehow. And so I graduated Northeastern in '09 during that economic collapse, and there were no jobs. Shocker. There was a couple journalism jobs that I found interesting, and they quite honestly didn't pay enough. And so I was like, huh. And then I came across a posting for a PR firm, RF Vendor, and I just kind of read it and felt like, wow, this is me. And then I spent 4 hours in the interview and I thought, these are my people. And I had done some internships too in TV stations in Boston, ABC and Fox 25. And also a Northeastern co-op at the Boston Globe Foundation, which was incredible. And that was a nice taste of public affairs. And so anyway, I love working. I get to work with companies um, and with journalists, but just on the other side of the table and helping with story development, pitch angles, et cetera, positioning, narrative, and really getting those media placements and the ability to work with journalists to get those is really what gets me out of bed every morning and makes me excited. So I do feel very fortunate that I can work with journalists very closely, but from this side of the
Hmm.
table.
Love that. And you
Yeah,
and I, we talked about in our first conversation about having a seat at the table and being a communication professional, having a seat at the table. And the analogy is, the comms role sits within the C-suite because it's about communicating to audiences when the times are good,
should
when the times are
fit
bad.
within the
Should, yeah,
C-suite.
should. So, what's your my point of view is that absolutely they should be there. But what's your POV on it? Why? How come? And what's the role do comms play? Because it's clearly communications, but it's really not just comms. So why and how?
It is reputation maintenance. That is, I think, the overarching umbrella of the many, many, many elements that go into comms, right? So it takes years and years to build a reputation and 5 seconds to ruin it. And so companies that are smart enough to realize that usually are, uh, experienced founders, experienced C suite who recognize the importance of comms for building the brand, but also protecting the brand. They're the ones who hire appropriately and give communications a seat at the table and understand and respect how much work goes into comms. It's really interesting. It's just, some of the best brands in the world, some of the best companies in the world, they have comms, at the C-suite and they prioritize it and they bring comms into the conversation, every business conversation. So where I have been most successful in my career is when I have been brought to the table, right? Given a seat
Sure.
at the table, brought into all of the leadership conversations about what's happening in the company right now, but also what's coming down the pike. And when a comms leader has that lens, they are able to be so much more strategic. And it's hard to kind of give an example to describe that, but in
I know
general,
what
it's
you mean.
just yeah, you,
Yeah,
you
it's
just
like we become we're trained to write and to communicate and help clients
mhm,
understand. You have this thing you want to communicate. Really, you want to sell something to
right,
somebody. Donate,
sure.
enroll, fund, whatever it happens to be. And oftentimes they're good at managing their product and service, but communicating to those audiences can be difficult. And oftentimes, while we are folks that put pen to paper, maybe not so much these days, but typing on a screen, it's the context of the conversation and the content that really matters. So we've turned into business consultants, right? If we say this, how does this impact the business? So your thought process and train here about being at the table was less about, hey Don, put out this press release, hey Brooks, do this pitch to this reporter, but it's the impact of communications because you said it. Decades to build a reputation, and a tweet or a blue sky post or an Instagram reel can like put that thing in the toilet in 2 seconds.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Crazy.
yeah, it's the leaders, the company leaders that are really successful are the ones who realize it's comms is so much more than sending out a tweet, sending out a press release, writing a press release. It's so much more.
You have to love what you do, especially in this business, right? The pressure is on to get results all the time. You can get a client in the newspaper, Boston Globe, New York Times, once every other week, and they're going to look for something else, right? So creating that new baseline. But for me, it's the thrill of the chase, the thrill of the story, and the excitement in this business, and learning things that gets me excited. What excites you about this journey you've been on, and clearly this new chapter that you're going on that I want to cover as well. But what do you love about the job? What do you love about comms? And talk to me about what's next for you from a professional chapter wise.
Yeah, amazing. Like you, thrill of the chase, I think. Media relations, my favorite part of this job. There's so many other aspects to it, but working with journalists to land high impact stories that really move the needle for a client is just what gets me excited. The fact that you can be doing some work that directly impacts the bottom line, whether that's, doubling a funding round or contributing to sales or helping with hiring, whatever it may be, being able to see how that happens with good comms is really amazing. So, for example, about a year ago, I was able to, after 1 year of working on this reporter, I was able to land Deep Sky, my former company, in the New York Times, and it was the front page
Nice.
New York Times, an amazing digital story.
Not easy to
And
do. It's hard to crack that nut. I mean, I've done it maybe half a dozen times in 20 plus years, and it's tough. It's
it's
super, super
tough.
tough.
It's very tough. Obviously, the New York Times has a really, really high bar, and after more than a year of reaching out and staying on this particular reporter's radar, he got back to me and said, "Let's do something. I have an idea." And so, yeah, I love being able to help land high visibility stories for companies that most people maybe don't know about yet. That to me, that's what's most exciting, which is why I love kind of like earlier to grow stage startups, because the challenge is a little greater in terms of, okay, there's zero awareness or there's very little, and let's try to, get us to the big leagues
Hmm.
versus working with like a company that's really, really well known. It's more killing stories or managing stories than it is increasing visibility. So I really get
Mm,
excited about telling the world about little known technologies and startups and teams that they should know about.
love that. What's
Yeah.
as you're just describing this, a question popped in my head about just how quickly our business has changed in terms of what we do, how we do it, but it's still the same kind of business at the same time, which is a weird thing, right? It's still media, still pitching. But in your perspective, from the Dunks days to these days and what's next for you, clearly we got AI, all these tools. I mean, how has your process and flow changed as a communications professional from the old school press release, fax machine days, which goes back to my days, to like having LLMs be account coordinators for you? Like, what's that dynamic look like for you?
Yeah. Um, Fax machine days, I also have those. When I was an intern at ABC in Boston, my job as an intern was taking the PR pitches that came through the fax machine,
All day
scanning them
long.
really quickly, and
All
then
day
throwing
long.
most of them away. Yeah. Yeah. And that was the
Crazy,
assignment editor was like, "Please throw those away." So,
right? So
yep.
don't send your pitches via fax. And these days it's
No.
probably your inbox. It's your
Right,
inbox.
exactly. Yeah. But I mean, it's remarkable how technology has changed our profession over the last decade or more, but it's also really fundamentally remained the same, and I
Yeah.
remain a firm believer in the power of earned media and the fact that that's not going away. Um, Major stories still move markets, absolutely, and I think they absolutely will continue to do that.
I agree.
Sure, there's blogs, there's podcasts, there's a million other avenues now. Social media is obviously a whole new world in terms of brand
Oh, yeah.
visibility and reputation, and critically important to maintain. But at the end of the day, it's the fundamentals of what we do in building awareness. Yes, there's more channels and platforms to build the awareness, but what we're doing at the core is very, very similar. We're
Yeah.
building the reputations and protecting them. I would say there's probably uh, Comms pros today are probably just overwhelmed with the many, many different platforms and channels that there are. There's a lot more to stay on top of, which just means that a comms person's job is even harder today than it was before. I mean, something can be said on social media in 1 second and change the trajectory of a brand. And so
Hmm.
it higher stakes, it's more stress, it's more work, and because of that, I think it has much higher value, and, yeah.
I
And
agree.
then in
I agree with
terms
you
of, like,
wholeheartly.
yeah, and in terms of AI tools, I mean, for me, at least, like, the last year with ChatGPT and Claude and whatnot, it's like having an intern or an assistant, and really, using those tools for mundane tasks or reporting that you didn't want to do, or that you just save so much time automating those things, or helping brainstorm even PR campaigns, or giving a shell of a press release, for example, that you can then edit and refine. So AI is sort of a little bit of a risk to our profession, but more so, I think, a valuable tool that can be used well. There's a long way to go before AI ever replaces people, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think that there can help with production, can help with ideation, organization, account management, data reporting, going through data sets, things like that. I think it's about efficiency and productivity, which allows us to focus more on strategy and higher level thinking. And as comms professionals, we've been trained to just go with the story and find the story and adjust. And this is just another time from, fax machines to email, from email to LLMs to whatever else is going to be coming down the pike in the next 50 years. And our job is to sort
exactly.
of, just like the feather in the wind, continue just to adjust and roll through it. So
Right.
clearly, I mean, you mentioned all the great clients you worked for in the past, agencies. You're on your own now, building out your business. What's the core of your focus in terms of the types of clients you want to work with?
Yeah. At Wallace Group, which is a strategic comms consultancy, launched in November. I am focusing on emerging tech. So companies are either earlier stage to a growth stage, where they, like I said earlier, just telling the world about technologies and companies and people they had not heard of before, that are helping change the way we live, work, or play, is really what I'm focused on. So I have an AI client right now. I have a couple other tech clients, fintech. It's been a lot of fun building out this business. Obviously, entrepreneurship is a whole journey in itself, as you know. And but I must say that the power of one's network is huge. And the clients I have today are completely referrals and
Hmm.
sent from trusted folks within my network who I've either worked
Love that.
with before, or, was on PRSA with, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, love that. I mean, at this point in the podcast, I always get to a question about networking because it's kind of my jam. It's like my thing. And what is your strategy for networking? What tools are you using? What groups you belong to? Associations? If you're speaking to your 20-year younger self getting into the business, like where does the young Brooks need to be? What's that networking strategy look like for you and your business?
I would say, first and foremost, the most powerful part of networking is do a really good job at all of your jobs, at your whatever company you're working at, whether it's a PR firm or an in-house or a consultancy client. Do an amazing job there, because those people that you work with are going to go on and do things, and hopefully can help you out in the future, and vice versa, you can help them out. So I think, for me at least, the people that I have worked directly with are the source of new business for me now, which has been hugely impactful. And then there's, of course, organizations you can join. And I was a member of and on the board of PRSA Boston many years ago, and then PRSA San Francisco when I lived there. Met some amazing people who I still, have become lifelong friends, and I still keep in touch with, and we refer business to each other back and forth. And it's just more of a modern working tool today digitally is Slack. I'm part of the comms network on Slack, which is an incredible community of
Shout out TCN. Shout out TCN.
weekend.
Great community.
Exactly. Where we're both where we met, actually.
Exactly.
It's amazing the amount of introductions happening there, connections happening on there. I know a lot of people who have won projects and won business, agencies and individuals alike from that Slack channel. There's another one called Comms Unity that's new to me, but seems to be equally impactful. And
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Now, outside of all the client work and running around with like a chicken with your head cut off, what do you do for fun?
oh my goodness, I have a 1-year-old,
Nice.
so he keeps me very busy, and 5-year-old, and so we are in full, like,
All right. So here's the
family
question. Is it harder to get into New York Times or to be a mom? And I know the answer to that before you even answer it.
1,000% mom. I you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Agreed.
have children, it was like, I thought my job was hard before this. Now
Mm-mm.
any professional job feels like a walk in
Yeah,
the park
like,
with
and there's
parenting.
no instruction manual for
No,
it, right? No instruction
exactly.
manual. They send you home with this human being and they go, "Good luck." Great,
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
Yep, pretty
it
scary.
it's pretty
Well, at least
scary.
you'll be able to train your kids how to communicate properly, right? When they're being interviewed, when they go to job interviews, they're going to
Yeah,
school. So we could teach them to be communicators. That's
yeah.
fantastic. But
Media training
outside of
for me
that,
too.
fantastic. How about any podcasts you listen to these days, or what are you reading? What's when you open up your feeds? What's the stuff that pops out? Like cooking, fashion, being a mom, comms. Like what's your guilty pleasure?
My feeds are really full of parenting, advice and stuff right now, but,
And
I love
everybody has an opinion on parenting, by the way. Everybody that has an opinion.
yeah, oh yeah, of course. I love to read, I love historical fiction, I love
Cool.
business leadership type books as well. Podcasts, I honestly, like, I'm kind of old school in that sense where I don't listen to a ton. If there's like a topic or a person that I really want to hear, that I do. But and then I also have a bunch of like podcast work that I do for clients. But NPR podcast is one of my go-tos. Every single morning at having
Solid.
coffee, I listen
Solid.
to NPR one to get like a highlight of the day's news. And usually pit ideas come to me from just listening to the day's global news, which is always helpful and sends me off in other directions there. So
Love that. Same here. I think we're as communicators, we're gluttons for information, whether it be trashy celebrity news to what's going on with the Patriots to Drake May and his girlfriend, wife who bakes and stuff like that. I mean, we are not at a shortage of content, and sometimes we're either involved in it, pitching it, or we're just consuming, and that's just the nature of the beast.
right.
So, if people want to learn more about you and connect with you, learn about your business, and hire you for the work that you do, where can they find you?
Walletsgroup.io. And then all
Excellent. I love
course,
the IO. Wait, was that intentional? The IO
yeah,
intentional for like kind of
yeah,
that fintech technology vibe? Love
exactly.
that.
IO is tech companies typically. So
Love
yep.
that. Fantastic.
Yeah, that .com wasn't available, so
Here you go. And if you wanted to buy it, it'd probably be like $20,000 to buy the URL. So screw that. Who cares? All
exactly.
right. So give me the URL one more time.
So Wallace Group dot
Fantastic. Well, and then where else can they find you? What's your business networking platform of choice?
LinkedIn for sure. So
Okay.
just Brooks Wallace on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter, B Wallace. That's where
Excellent.
crypto lives, but a lot of climate and industry folks live on LinkedIn, and
Hmm.
then a little
Cool.
bit of Telegram too.
Yeah. It's really not hard to find communications folks. I just say Google me. Just
Exactly.
Google me. I'm out there. I'm out there. Well, Brooks, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for joining the PR Bunker podcast. Those of you who are looking for somebody to sit at the table, at the head of the table in the comms conversations and driving the business, and want a counselor in that fintech technology AI space, gotta talk to my girl Brooks. Outside of chasing around kids around the house, she's managing clients, managing business. Congratulations on cutting the cord, letting the boat go and starting your own thing in November. It's scary out there, but I think us comms folks need to stick together because there's a lot of pie out there for us to eat. We just got to make sure we share enough of it. And part of the reason why the PR bunker started was to shine a light on those that never get the spotlight on them. So, girlfriend, congratulations on launching your platform, your business, and managing all the things you do as a mom and the business owner. Hats off to you all. But appreciate you joining. Looking forward to learning more and seeing you grow in TCN. And clearly, if anybody wants to learn more about her, feel free to reach out. You'll see in the notes of this podcast, the website address as well. But Brooks, thank you for joining the PR Bunker podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the PR Bunker podcast, where we go beyond the headlines and into the trenches with founders, builders, and operators making real moves. This show is brought to you by the PR Bunker, a strategic communications agency helping mission-driven and impact-focused organizations cut through the noise and tell stories that matter. Want to learn more? Head to prbunker.com and subscribe to the Bunker Briefing, our monthly email newsletter packed with a 45-second read that's stacked with value. We're talking practical PR and communications insights, networking tips, and strategies to help you navigate the moments that matter. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. We've got more raw, real conversations on the way. So stay locked in. Until next time, keep building, stay resilient, and remember, momentum favors the bold.